Welcome everybody, welcome Pine Knoll Shores for being here tonight. I want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you guys will join me in saying the pledge, that would be great. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys for that. I'm Erin Knight. I am the president for the Carteret County Chamber of Commerce. We are very blessed to partner with the League of Women Voters, two nonprofit, nonpartisan organizations getting together to educate our voters on all the municipalities. So we have done YouTube streaming for we will be all 7. Tomorrow is our last one, for 7 municipalities in Carteret County. So we're very blessed to just be able to educate the voters on their candidates. So thank you guys for being here tonight. Like I said, it's on YouTube. So after tonight, if you want to share this with your neighbors and friends, you can let them know to go on the Carteret County Chamber of Commerce's YouTube page. Then I also know that Carroll and League of Women Voters are also posting it. And then additionally tonight, Pine Knoll Shores is doing a webinar. So there are lots of ways to hear what's being said tonight and be able to revisit that. So thank you guys for coming. Like I said, we're Carteret County Chamber of Commerce with the League of Women Voters. Carol will be introduced in a moment, but she's the president for the League of Women Voters, and we work very closely to organize these, so thank you so much for that. At this time, I want to introduce to you your mayor, Mayor John Broadman. Please, Mayor, come.
Thank you, Erin. I'll be very brief. Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for coming. I'd also like to thank the Carteret County League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for putting this forum together. This is an excellent opportunity for the voters to get to know the candidates and for the candidates to learn about the issues that are important to the voters. As you may know, I decided not to run for re-election this year. At the end of this term, I will be 80 years old, and by December 10, when the new mayor and board of commissioners are sworn into office, I will have been your mayor for 1,981 days. Former Vice President Kamala Harris just wrote a book called 107 Days. It's been an honor for me to serve Pine Knoll Shores, but by December 10, I will be unemployed. I'll be looking to former Mayor Trace Cooper for some tips on how to do it. But if anybody knows anybody who's hiring, I have some extra resumes here I'm going to pass out. We have an excellent, well-qualified slate of candidates, and may the best ones win. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Pam Greer, who's the president of the board of directors of the Carteret County League of Women Voters. Pam, please. Carol.
Thank you, Robin. It's always a joy to be here. We love Pine Knoll Shores. Actually, the founder of our league was here many years ago, Joan Lindsay. Joan was, and she was mayor for many years. But just a reminder, everyone, this is a forum, not a debate. The candidates will be given 2-minute intro, opening statements, and then each question that has been pre-submitted, they'll get 1 minute each, and then 2-minute closing. So we have, we want all the candidates to have the same share of voice. Thank you all for submitting the questions in advance. We've card and a pen, and you can write out your question, okay? Thank you. And then I want to introduce Ralph Hall, our timer for this evening. He's just going to review the procedure.
I'll move over here so that both you all and the candidates get to see what I'm talking kick that Mayor Broadman has. Nonetheless, my job tonight is to, one, really ensure that every one of you gets the same opportunity. You will find that some of these questions, you won't have quite enough time to finish everything you were trying to say, but you will probably also find that one question may logically follow its precursor. So don't panic too much. But in the interest of the time for each of you, but as well as to respect the time of everybody who has shown here tonight. My job is to growl at you by way of my high-tech sign system. As Carol said, you will each start with a 2-minute introduction of yourself, and during that time, you will have certain, I want to make sure you sort of try to stay on track. So when you've got 1 minute left, you'll have a little paddle. They don't have electric charges. When you get down to 30 seconds left, once again, I will do my best to catch your eye, make you realize that what's going on. But that's your opportunity. You're doing great, but time to gather your thoughts together. And when you get down to here, it should be self-evident, you have exhausted your time for that question. Having said that, everybody's in this room tonight to hear your thought, your take on Knoll especially. So please, a few more seconds. You do not have to stop dead. My timer will make a little doorbell noise if it's behaving tonight, and I will then start to get a little more urgent as we may or may not get along tonight. But we are very grateful to you all. We are grateful to the citizens of Knoll Shores for participating in democracy, and we're looking forward to hearing all of you. Thank you.
And just a reminder for everyone, early voting starts tomorrow. Actually, sorry, Thursday, 2 days, Thursday. And it starts at Thursday, October 16th, 8 to 6 p.m., 3 sites. Just remember, on election day, if you wait till election day number 4, on Tuesday, go to your precinct, not the 3 early voting sites. Also, vote41.org is one of the league's nonpartisan voting and election websites. All the candidates, thank you for getting your profiles up, but that's another place you can go to find out information on voting and elections and see your candidates. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Trace Cooper. As many of you know, Trace was born and raised in Carteret County after working as a lawyer in California's Silicon Valley. He moved home to Atlantic Beach where he served as mayor for 8 terms. Don't know how many days that is, but 8 terms is a long time. During this time, Trace also served on several county, regional, and state boards and commissions. He believes local government is the most effective level of government and looks forward to hosting tonight's forum.
When I started, Joan was still mayor, so I went through Joan, Ken, and John. I don't know how many days that is, but I went through 3 Knoll Shores mayors. So we're going to get right to it. Before we introduce the candidates, I do want to make a note. Melissa Mason had filed to be on the council. She has notified the League of Women Voters that she has withdrawn from the election. But apparently she didn't do it early enough. The ballots were already printed. So her name will appear on the ballot. But again, she has notified the League of Women Voters that she is no longer interested in serving. So you'll see 5 names on the ballot. You are to vote for 3. And since she's no longer interested, I suggest picking 3 of these 4. For our process tonight, we're going to start with 2-minute introductions from each of the candidates. Within that 2 minutes, we'd like you to include your top 3 issues to address if you're elected. Things will go quick here, so not a lot of time for long-winded answers. Then after that, we'll go into the questions that have been submitted by Knoll Shore citizens. And at the very end, there'll be a 2-minute summation. Each of you, if there's a point you forgot to make or want to follow up on, you'll have time to do that. We'll start with introductions. We'll start with Marion and then work our way this way. And then each of the other questions, we're going to move down. There's an advantage to going last when you hear these questions. So we're going to make sure that everyone shares in the pain of going first. And other than introductions, I plan to use first names with all of our candidates. We are a beach town, so we can, it's important work, but we can still keep it a little bit less formal. So again, you'll each have 2-minute introductions, and we'd like you to include your top 3 issues to address if elected. Marion Getzinger, please start.
Do you want me to stand up or sit down?
Sit down.
Okay.
You may need to pull that microphone closer to you.
All right. Am I speaking into the mic?
Yep.
I'm going to say thank you once, and I'm not going to say it every time I speak like some people do. So thank you for being here. And thank you, John Brosnan, for teaching us all how to keep our speeches short. So 2 minutes should be easy. I have lived in Knoll Shores now since 1995. I actually married into Knoll Shores, and for years and years, nobody knew my name. I was just Ted's wife. Battered Women's Program. That was my first career, and that's where my heart and soul, and still continues to be, as I still continue to be very involved with the Battered Women's work and the programs here in Carteret County. My issues in Pine Knoll Shores are probably some of the same issues you have, and the first one that I listed when I filled out the paperwork originally was safety, and then I realized that the other two are also safety. So safety, sidewalks, and golf carts. And I didn't elaborate on how I felt about those things. I just said those are my three issues. Since then, I've realized that a big thing for me is also our library. We are so fortunate here, since safety can fall into the other two, we're gonna add one of my three as the library. We are fortunate to have one of our libraries located right here in Pine Knoll Shores, and because of the support of so many citizens here in town and around the county, and because of the support of the friends of the library, we have been able to keep our library open and active, and it's a very important part of my life as well. Sidewalks, I believe that sidewalks are critical to the life of an aging population, and in fact, in a young population. I happen to be the owner of some businesses in town, and I have small preteens that walk to my business because they live on this end of town and can get to me by sidewalk. And I also have some elders. We just lost one of our dear friends a couple of weeks ago who walked. She was 93 or 94 years old, walked every day to my business for coffee. So sidewalks are really important, and I'll talk about golf carts more later.
Alicia Kramer, 2 minutes.
2 minutes goes fast.
Don't it?
I know. I just want to thank the league and chamber volunteers and everybody that showed up today. So thank you guys for coming. I've been on the board almost 2 terms, not quite. I've done this for a while now. And what I've noticed, I think when I first came to the board, I remember being the newbie. Like I remember John Brodman, I was talking about, oh, y'all need fresh ideas, and I didn't feel like I was represented at the time. And now, fast forward almost 8 years, I'm not the newbie anymore. I am the incumbent with the most experience sitting on this board, which feels a little strange. I just want to say that I think a great board is a good composition of experience and new perspectives on there. So remember that. So my top 3 issues, I'm going to say, and I'm the UDO. We've spent a lot of work on this UDO. I'm not for sure if everybody understands, but it really does streamline our ordinances, how to develop, all of these things. And I think we need to continue to work on that, get it as close to perfect as we can. We did get it fairly close. We've got some excellent environmental and tree ordinances in there. I think we need to continue to hone in on that. Safety is also an issue. I'm with Miriam. I think sidewalks are great, but my third issue is going to be budget. I'm always going to be conservative. This is not my money that I'm dealing with. This is y'all's money. So I want to make sure that everything we do makes sense financially, and that we're not putting a hindrance on our future Pine Knoll Shore residents or residences today. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate is Darrell Moore.
Well, thank you for letting me speak and introduce myself. I'm from Eastern North Carolina. I grew up on a tobacco farm in Eastern North Carolina. My wife and I, coming to meetings with town hall or whatever, I got to notice them several years ago that people would say, I've been here 10 years or 15 years or 20 years or whatever. And so I quickly calculated that me and Michelle spent our honeymoon here 45 years ago. It was the Whaler Inn, back when it was a hotel. We've come to the beach, come to Pine Knoll Shores, spent lots of vacations down here through the years. Bought a house in 14, moved down here in 16, and really have come to enjoy the neighborhood. I retired in January of 25, so just a few months ago, I retired. I was talking to somebody on the beach this past summer, and he was complaining about this and that, and I was thinking to myself while I was talking to him, well, why don't you go do something? I never did tell him that. I was thinking of that to myself. And so after that conversation, it just rolled around in my mind, why don't I go do something? And so that was the reason that I am a candidate now for the commissioner's seat. My three issues: safety, like these other two candidates here. I think we need safe pedestrian pathways and walkways for our citizens. Tree protection is a big thing. I never knew I was a tree hugger until I moved down here. And I really love the trees, and I love the fact that we're a maritime forest, and we have got to hold on to that, or else we will not be a maritime forest. You know, we'll look entirely different in 75 years. And then lastly, maintaining a great residential community. Thank you.
Mr. And our fourth candidate is Ken Rosiski.
Good evening. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's forum. Trace and Ralph for your participation. I want to thank all the town folk that are here and online for your interest in our community. And I also want to thank the other three candidates for their willingness to serve and take a leadership position. That's, I'm sure, well and not an easy decision. But you know, there's more that unites us than divides us. So it's in 20 in the midst of COVID, we were put in a position where we could take advantage of coming here and starting. I've been active in the Beacons Reach single-family homeowner HOA, the president of that, and the vice president of the master HOA for all of Beacons Reach. Been on the planning board here for 5 years, and my area is the beauty of shores, effectively managing our financial resources, and maintaining our best-in-class first responder teams. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. So we'll move on to our first question. Alicia, you're next in line, and this is a bit of a follow-up to something you mentioned in your introduction. Question is, the UDO was passed a year ago, and for those who don't follow town government closely, as some of us dorks do, UDO is Unified Development Force. The UDO was passed a year ago. What changes or additions would you recommend going forward? How can the town best enforce compliance?
So changes, oh, that's a great question, because we're going through it right now. Changes are as things emerge. We have a great planning board and working groups where as the planner comes to go through and say, hey, we've hit this like roadblock, we maybe need to like tweak some of the wording in here. I think as a whole it's solid. I think it still needs tweak here and there on making sure that it's easy to understand for developers, but also do we run into issues? There's always going to be some of those unseen things with that. There was a second part of the question. What was?
And how can the town best enforce compliance?
Oh, enforce compliance. I would say just keeping the staff, making sure they're doing that. But I'm going to say because we're such a tight-knit neighborhood, it's you guys are the best at enforcing the compliance and letting the town know when things are occurring so that our planner can go out, Jimmy or our town manager can go out and take a look at it with that. So really, honestly, it's the people that's been the best enforcers in this town of Pine Knoll Shores.
Thanks. Daryl, same question to you.
I was in several meetings with the Board of Commissioners when they were going through the UDO, and there was a lot that went into that. I mean, they went into it, and it was month after month. And I didn't go to the meetings that were not a Board of Commissioner meeting, so I'm sure there was things that was happening outside of the meeting I attended. But I look at the UDO as necessary. I look at it as a living document. So the living document is means that change corrected and validated in a different way along the way. And some examples that I would give is, things like if you're not going to have grain barrels in the yard, don't put a retention pond in a place where everybody drives by and sees, and all the neighbors have it right in. I mean, we're running into some situations like that now. But anyway, I think it is the voters that keep coming back to the town for working things right. I agree with Felicia on that.
Ken, same question to you regarding the UDO.
Yes, thanks. So, I was on the planning board during the inception of, the UDO. As a matter of fact, Kevin Reed asked me and some other in the search for, subject matter expertise to guide us through, the process. I think his name was Rick Flair. So I've been involved in the process of the question. I think the current UDO as it stands, it is a living document, but I think it usurps a lot of input and doesn't acknowledge the intellectual capital that the planning board can offer after their work and studies and you have consequences. So how can something be enforced if we're non-compliant?
Thank you. Marion, same question to you. What would you recommend changing the UDO and how best to enforce it?
I think we need to cut out half the words out of it. Sorry, that was sort of funny. My background, one of my backgrounds is writing. I have a degree in writing, and I do believe that it is very wordy, and that there's some redundancy in there that can be corrected. I think our attorney has advised us on some of the places where we need to, it doesn't need to be said 3 times. Twice might be enough. Once might even be good enough. I think we also need, there are places in our UDO where we're too specific. I know there's at least a couple places discussed recently where it said, or maybe it's the town inspector. Well, we need a little bit more leeway than that. For example, some of those positions are vacant from time to time. And I think we need to be careful that we don't strip the commissioners, and I'm not looking for power. Remember that the commissioners are elected by the town and not committee the UDO to them. Committee to committee to committee. Let's put it back so we can get it specific and direct.
Thank you. So Darren, will you get the first stab at this next question? This is regarding some of the things that you guys mentioned as your priorities. Please advise us on staffing for our EMS and fire department. With our aging population, is there more that they ought to be doing?
As I understand, our staffing for our EMS and fire department are excellent. In my current role as a citizen, I'm not privy to need, extra need. I don't know that that's a good answer for you guys to hear, but I just am not. I think that we need to stay up to date on the staffing that is needed for the population, and it needs to increase as full-time residents increase. And so maybe that needs to be looked at. I'm not sure if that's looked at now, but it certainly is something to be considered. I'm very, all the reports that I get from anybody, I've had a neighbor to be, have to be called EMS, and I mean, they were there within like just less 5 minutes or less, and that's quick. That's almost as quick as this timer does.
Ken, same question to you.
Okay, I think, we have gaps in our police coverage right now. We do not have 24/7 coverage, so that might be something to consider and look at. I also think the staffing for the fire and EMS has a lot to do with how we're insured as a town. And you have to maintain certain levels of staffing, or you fall behind and you lose certifications and advantages to run an appropriately sized department. But I don't report to be a subject matter expert on that, but it's an area that I think deserves a look.
Thank you. Marion?
I'm a fire and police family, and I have the greatest respect for our current staff. I think they're some of the most well-trained and well-qualified that we've ever had. I keep close tabs on them. I happen to be next door to them, like you, Trace. But Ted and I have a son and 2 grandsons who are firemen or police officers and EMTs, and so it's near and dear to our heart. And when I look at what some of the other forces around the county, around the state are doing and what we're doing. Some of them come here for training. A lot of them come here for training because we have some of the best. I think we have 24-hour police. Do we not? I thought we did, so I believe that's a mistake. The only thing I would add is that I personally, just because I am a domestic violence, women's, and children's advocate, I would like to be able for anybody to run up to our fire and police department, walk in the door. I don't like that door being locked during the daytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everyone else. Some of the best, fire and police department, they work well together. If you look at it, like in the wintertime, their training hours are excellent and stuff. I think we, as leaders in this town, need to continue to monitor the pay and make sure that we're staying fair and equitable within the town. And we need to continue to provide them the best safety equipment. We've started to buy turnout gear for our firemen. We'll continue to make that a priority. New pumper truck, a new ladder truck coming in, and then also for our police and stuff, making sure we're allowing them to get trained, providing them the time to do that, and then giving them equipment and safety that they need, and continue to trust our chiefs to hire the best people.
Thank you. All right, Ken, we start with you for the next question. This gets into sort of budgeting or budget theory, I guess. And it's, do you support keeping costs and expenditures in control and appropriate annually versus large spikes every 5 or 6 years? Why or why not?
I think the first statement you made is more in line with my fiscally responsible perspective. I think it's easier to plan if you maintain an even budget without large spikes. I sat with the finance team in the town recently and went over our most current budget, and I think it does well to anticipate where we might have flare-ups.
Mary, back down to you.
I believe that you should have a budget where you can plan and not have such great spikes. However, we are in a very volatile environment here. We're going to have some spikes whether we like it or not. So I think we do have to have a contingency plan for that. I'm a little bit less informed on the budget process in Knoll than any of the other areas that you might ask me about. So that's an area where I'm going to need some tutoring.
Okay. Alicia?
Reread the question.
Sure. And I'm happy to do this anytime. We get, you gotta get tired later, so don't be afraid to ask. Do you support keeping costs and expenditures in control and appropriate annually versus large spikes every 5 or 6 years? Why or why not?
Yeah, of course we want to keep control annually and do the budget, but one of the things, we want to do also is build our reserve fund so that and we are rebuilding right now based back from violence and COVID and stuff, so that we don't have to spike every year. So our budget may go up and down, but the property owners, the taxpayers don't feel it, with that. So we're planning ahead, we're building the reserve fund, so when that next hurricane hits, because there will be another one, we do have reserves while we're waiting FEMA reimbursement and things like that. So yeah, rebuilding that reserve fund to kind of mitigate those spikes is definitely a priority in our plan.
Daryl, same budget question to you.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I believe that it needs to be controlled. I look at the budget for the town like the budget for a family. We've all got but so much money to live on, and unless I don't know anybody that's just infinitely wealthy, but you can't spend money that you don't have, and you have to maintain what you do have so that in X numbers of years down the road. I think that we need to be smart about what we do, and planning and contingencies for the location in the country that we live in has got to be accounted for. I mean, we're going to have things that happen just because it happens on occasion, We can pray that it won't, but we live in a world that, that's gonna happen.
Thank you. Mary, you're in the hot seat again for this round, and this next question is more of a big picture question. And it is, what is your vision for Pine Shores in 4 to 5 years?
We'll have sidewalks. I'd like to see us, figure out a way to resolve that issue that we've been fighting with for 25 years, for as long as I can remember, so that none of us are miserable. There shouldn't be winners and losers. Unfortunately, a lot of people are kind of dead set against or for one way or the other. But I believe that they're important enough that that's something I would like to see in the next 4 or 5 years, that we have not necessarily sidewalks. They can be multi-purpose paths. They can be walking paths, but ways that we can get around town without having to start that vehicle every time we want to go somewhere. We need to be using our legs more, not less. That's one of my big parts of my vision. We're already a kind, caring, loving community, so let's keep it that way. And that's part of my vision. And then let's keep our library healthy by utilizing the services of the library and supporting the library. And let's figure out a way to get those golf carts from one end of town to the other, so that we're not separated by that invisible line any longer. That's my vision.
Thank you. Alicia?
Vision for Pine Shores in 4 or 5 years. I want to tag on that sense of community, keeping that sense of wonderful community that is Pine Shores, encouraging it. To me, that's really what it makes here. Also to continuing and honing in on our environmental and tree ordinances that balances the maritime forest with landowner rights. So that's kind of like this give or take. I don't know if we'll ever get to the perfect line, but we'll be going back and forth with that. And then really kind of outlining, I don't think we'll have sidewalks everywhere, but really pushing that pedestrian plan that the planning board comes out with, and let's start piecemealing, talking about what is our priorities and where we're going to find the money to do that, and develop a plan to go forward. So.
Thank you. Carolyn?
So in 4 to 5 years, I'd like to say let's think about 75 years, because again, I go back to the tree and maritime forest. If we're not planning and thinking trees and maritime forest every 4 or 5 years for what that might look like in 75 years, our grandchildren are going to come to the beach and there's not going to be any shade in your yards. So I'm a big tree guy. Again, I already said that. I didn't realize that I was a tree hugger. The other thing that I would say is on the sidewalks. I agree that we really do need to do something, but instead of focusing on let's get sidewalks, I really do want to let's get sidewalks in 4 to 5 years. But what I don't want is for Highway 58, the stretch of Highway 58, to be named after somebody that got run over. So let's really think about that.
Ken, your vision for Pine Shores?
Hey, we live in paradise, right? So, I think we need to preserve what we have. That's why we're all here. That's what brought us here. I think the maritime forest is critical. We have to stop clear cutting. And I think we have to figure out a way to get more of the great people in Pine Knoll Shores involved in the community. There's such intelligence. We have to show people we appreciate them, ask them to do more, roll up their sleeves, and let them know how much we appreciate them when they contribute.
So Alicia, we'll go to you with this one. It's a little bit of a follow-up on what Ken just said about community involvement. So how are you involved in the community currently, and is there anything you have been considering getting involved in?
Okay, well, I'm here. I've been here for a while. I will say, probably similar to Daryl, it was, moved in here, it's been over 10 years ago, moved over from Morehead City. And I, was like talking about things. There were some issues, and I'm like reading it in the paper, and I remember like, why am I complaining? Why am I not doing something about it? And that's what started my role here, and when I just decided out of nowhere, nobody knew me, just kind of run, and be part of this. So this is how I give back to the community. I do, like, probably one of the only ones here work full-time. My daughter is graduated, but, I'm balancing things, and this is my offering to the town. And if I wasn't here, it would be something else. I would be on another board or in the women's club doing something with that. So, yes.
Daryl, talk about your community involvement.
I have been on the board for the HOA, for Pikes Cove HOA, for probably 5 years. And I did that just to be involved, to know what was going on, to give back to the community. For the last 2 years, and I'm working on my 3rd term as president for that same HOA. And again, it's the giving back to the community. I enjoy being involved with what is happening around the community, and also enjoy letting neighbors know that are in Pikes Cove HOA know what is going on in the community, and to let them know too that we're spending their money because they're paying dues, and what that money is going for.
Thanks. Ken, you touched on this in the introduction, but if you could remind us how you're currently involved in it.
I've been here for 5 years. I was involved in the many communities I lived in before here, but always knowing I was going to be moving on. I've set roots here. I got involved in my local HOA, which is the Peters Reach Single Family Homeowners Association. I'm the president of that now. I'm the chairman of the Architectural Control Committee for that HOA, as well as on the Marina Committee. I'm the vice president of the Beacon's 13 HOAs and about 600 homeowners in that Peters Reach area down. I've also spent the better part of 5 years as an appointee to our planning board, and I think now one of the senior members by the full committee.
Thank you. Mary?
I have served as president of the Pine Forest Women's Club and as president of the Women's Golf Association at the Country Club. I'm currently the liaison to the Pine Forest Women's Club to the Domestic Violence Program, just being a bridge between those two groups. I'm a member of the Friends of the Library, very involved with that group. I'm a member of the Carteret Riders group. I am involved with our commercial HOA along with Trace at Pine Village, right smack dab in the middle of Pine Forest. I'm involved with Kayak for Warriors, serving for 16 or 17, however long we've been doing Kayak for Warriors. I serve lunch at the race every year along with my team, and love doing that. And so many other things like, I'm a lay minister at St. Francis by the Sea Episcopal Church, which is just outside of town, but half of our congregation is in Pine.
Thanks. So Daryl, you're first up for this next question, and we're going to talk about beach nourishment, which is something John and I and several people have talked about in this room many times. The question, I guess the overarching question here, and I'll have some caveats, are we adequately funded for beach nourishment? Keeping in mind that the likelihood of more storms and the possibility that state and federal funding may dry up.
Well, I think beach renourishment as it's needed is important, because we're in a community where, to be honest, we moved down here because we like the beach, and without the beach renourishment, I guess we'll always have the beach, but some of the earlier houses may not like that. But I think it's important. We need to do everything that we can. I know that certain taxes go toward that with visitors coming in, and visitors come down and pay added taxes for that purpose, and it's set aside for that purpose. And I think the last time we did it was like 5 years ago, somewhere thereabouts. And it's so cool to see them working and doing that. And it makes such a big difference, and then you can have a big storm, and that big difference change over just a few seconds, for hours, maybe. Anyway, I got that timer. It's a quick one.
Ken, beach nourishment question to you.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, it's basically, are we adequately funded for beach nourishment, keeping in mind that we'll probably see an increasing number of storms, and there's the possibility that state and federal funding may dry up?
If state and federal funding dried up, I think we'd be in trouble. We have about $1 million between the expense reserve and the capital reserve funds. We're funding those, with our tax dollars, but it's critical for us to maintain that attraction and that value to the current homeowners. So a lot of work goes into that, and we're very dialed in with our partners and neighboring communities to make sure that we're making consider that within working in the best interest of the whole.
Ken, Mary, beach nourishment?
Are we adequately funded? No. If state and federal funds dry up, we're in trouble. I'll agree with Ken on that. So I'm not sure how we build that up. I told you that budgeting is my weakest point in this whole process, but I do know it's something we need to think about because we may not always have state and federal funding. And I know that we didn't have it until, well, since I've been here. And I remember when it started and what a challenge that was. And thank goodness that we've got it now. It's really made a big difference for a lot of people. So we do need to look at that. And I'm not sure what the answer is.
Thank you. Alicia?
Well, I think this is relevant because the national news has been nothing but the beach houses falling in the ocean here lately. And obviously, Pine Knoll Shores is not in that list, so people could, still vacation here. But yes, state and federal funding is always an issue, but luckily, I think we have established, or I would have to say our predecessors have established a Vogue Banks re-nourishment plan. So it's not just Pine Knoll Shores that's going to be alone. There's Carteret County money. I think we're never adequately funded because it's a sliding scale. Every time we think we know we've got enough, of course everything gets more expensive. But we do have a foundation that we can re-nourish both banks together with our sister towns without federal and state funding. Now we always like to get the FEMA money, but we can't do it without it. We've got a plan. We may have to, again, as things change, adjust that beach tax, and again, depend on our beach commission to kind of give us advice and tell us where to go. So, yeah.
Thank you. Ken, you're first up for this question. This gives each of you a chance to sort of drill down on one of your important issues as far as you can drill in 60 seconds. But what is the most critical item that needs to be addressed in Pine Knoll Shores, and how do you propose to go about completing the task? So this is a what is it and a how.
Yeah, I'm not advocating that Pine Knoll Shores is broken. I think I've been raised professionally as someone who's constructively dissatisfied, but I'd have to go and take a look and learn before I came and reported there's a glaring area that needs immediate attention.
Okay. Mary?
Wow. I like Ken's answer. There's a lot that I don't know, and none of us, other than Alicia, have served on the board, so there's a lot of inner workings that we may not be aware of yet. But I've always felt like connectivity was a huge part of this town. Bill connected the room. He ran on that issue many years ago. But connectivity is part of all of my issues: the library, the sidewalks, pedestrian pathways, and the golf carts. And I want us, we've got that. We are a very loving, caring, kind community, and I want us to keep that. And the ways that we do that, again, I feel like I got to get in here and dig in and get a little more knowledge before I'll know exactly where to go with that. But I think the things we're working on and the things I mentioned in my 3 issues will lead us in that direction.
Thank you. Alicia, most critical or most important item? Critical is sort of the negative connotation.
I know, it really is, because I don't feel like we have a critical, item. I feel like we're in we always great for improvement process and for everything, but mode as a board and as a town right now. It's really been nice. I mean, we've had new mayors, new town manager, COVID, Florence, beach renourishment, all that's been. So right now, I feel like we're in a really good place. So I guess my critical item is just civility with the boards, with the town, just making sure we're keeping that relationship a two-way street between our staff and our leadership, and making sure we're all working respectfully towards the common goals together and working together. And I guess that would be my critical item, not anything specific, but that we're all working together.
Gerald? Well, I'll make it a consensus that, all of these guys say that, they don't know of anything that's broken, and I don't either know of anything that's broken. On the back of my business cards, and anybody that's here, would like to have one, I'll be glad to give you that. But, I've got 4 things: safety, multi-purpose pedestrian pathways, tree protection, beach renourishment, and then neighbors and maintaining the community. But I would say if I had to pick something that was really critical to me, would be the safety aspect of it. We, there's a lot of people that don't want a sidewalk, and I really don't understand why. If all of our neighbors are walking around and doing whatever they're doing, and we all need to be walking more. I think somebody said that earlier. We certainly need to be walking more, not less. We need to have we need to facilitate that being done, and that being done safely. Thank you.
So Marion, we're back to your end of the guys down there. I'm going to paraphrase this question a little bit. The submitter of this question notes that communications that come from town staff are currently all lumped together, make it a little bit hard to read. So the question to each of you is, what would you do to improve communication from the town to your citizens? Mary?
That's an interesting, because I thought about this one because I've heard that. And I don't see it for myself personally. I'm a business person and a citizen of the town. I'm very involved in a whole lot of different things. I don't know anybody that's any busier than I am. And yet, I feel like I'm always kept up to speed. But in order to do that, you have to pay attention. And I don't know how the town can do a better job. I feel like they're already doing a fantastic job of communicating with the citizens, but we can't call each citizen individually. I don't expect our staff to do that. I think it's up to the citizens to pay attention. If you're missing all the emails and all the texts and all the advertisement and all the social media stuff, then I'm not sure what else we can do. Unless we want to blare it with a foghorn across the head. Sometimes I think, enough already, I already know about that. Stop telling me. So I think they do a great job.
Okay. Alicia?
The only thing I guess I would say with communication is really separating the blast for things that are occurring in town that are kind of fun, and then the town government business stuff. So kind of keeping that separate so that people that, I just want to see the fun stuff, and then those that want to, when's the planning board meeting and stuff. I know that the website can always use tweaks and updates. I know they've been working with Municipal to get that up to date, but any information of making it easier to go to the website and find things easily that you're looking for, that can always help. I know sometimes I'll be looking for a form or something like that, and can't find it. But yeah, kind of those email blasts, the big thing is, what is the town functioning, and then what is the fun stuff that's happening in the park committee or what's going on. I think that would be a great way to kind of help with the communication.
I don't know of any issues that there are with communications. I get a memorandum from the town. Some of my neighbors have said, well, how do I find out about that? And I'm like, I just forwarded them my email and said, you can sign up. It says on the email on the memorandum that they send out by email, how to let the town know that you want to be on a mailing list. But then there's Facebook, and you see that, and then there's the town website, and everybody sees that. The people that miss and are saying that it could probably be better, or maybe they just peruse too quick, because a lot of times the attentions are in the details, and you have to read every line to see or catch something that you're wanting want to be seen or they want you to see. And if you're just perusing it, you're gonna miss it.
Thanks, Daryl. Ken?
You know, this could be a function of the size of our town and the budgetary constraints we have as a small town, relatively speaking. We have a shoreline, which is a tremendous communication tool, online communications we push out. But because I'm constructively dissatisfied, and I also get other towns pushed communications locally and from other states, maybe this is a place where we could tap the intellectual community, or the intellectual resources that community could offer, some marketing, and figure out how to better communicate what do people really want to hear and how do they want to hear it. But we'd just be playing whack-a-mole if we try to figure it out today.
I've been in many a public hearing where someone says, I didn't know this was happening. And we're like, you're adjoining property owner, there was a sign on the site. Well, you know, and then we mailed you a letter to your house. Like, well, I don't check my mail. Certain point. Okay, well, we've gone through all the questions that have been submitted. So we're down to our 2-minute summations. Again, this is a chance to just sort of circle back to anything you want to touch on or revisit any ideas you mentioned or anything that you haven't said yet that you want to. So Alicia, you're up to begin the 2-minute summations.
Well, for those of you that don't know me, my family is from North Carolina. My grandparents had a place of emerald fishing here long time ago.